The first thing that you're going to want to do is log in with your ISF or your Built account. And once you've logged in with that account, you can go up to the Setup button up here and click on the Setup button. When you go to that, there's lots of different choices that you have, and we're going to focus on standards, because what you want to do is you want to create new standards for a specific course that you want. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to Standard Categories, and in this we are going to create a new standard category. Now before we do that, let me just show you. These are all the categories, and it's possible that there might be some already that you want to use, but if not, then you're going to create your own by coming down here and clicking this button. So let's do that. Now you're going to need to name your category, whatever you want to name it. So if you want to do things for Irondale, you can call them Irondale or ID and then put the course designation on there if you want. And then you need to fill out these two categories right here. The first one is number of designation groups. And what a designation group is it's the different levels of achievement that you identify. For example, let's say that you have your identified levels as advanced, proficient, basic, and needs recovery. If those were your 4 levels of success, realistically, then you would take this number and put it at 4, and then you'll have an opportunity to edit those and say exactly what they are later. And then the number of levels is how many levels there are within a standard. So you have a standard, and then that standard is broken up into different pieces. Let's say that you have strands within a standard, and then inside of the strands you have benchmarks. That would mean that you have 3 different levels. So however many levels that you have inside of your standard, that goes here. So you choose how many levels you do here. Now I've already pre-created one, so I'm not going to make a new one, but after you fill out this information and you click on the Create Standard Category button, it brings you to this page, and I'm just going to jump to one that I've already pre-created. And here's the page that it brings you to. Now when you start out, these will be blank, but I have populated them. So I said that in my example there were 3 levels: high proficient, proficient, and below proficient. And then for those, you put a score that goes along with each of those groups. So 90%, 70%, and then 0. And those are the cutoff scores. So to be high proficient, you need to score 90% on this assessment. And then mastery is identified as, so you check mark the different categories that show mastery. And then you put here the % of students that you expect to be at mastery. Now the levels are down here. And so I put my levels at standards for level 1 and benchmarks for level 2. Now after you have populated all of this information, you click down here on Update Groups, and it should update the groups while you go. Now just one thing, it does say % right here. The first time I did it, I put 90 and then I actually hit the % button, and then when I tried to update it, it told me that there was an error, so I needed to redo it. So make sure when you type in these numbers, you don't put %, because the % is already over on this side. Okay, at this point we've created these standards that the standard categories that you want to do. But now what we're going to do is we're going to create the standards themselves. So to do that, click on Setup. And again, we're going to go to Standards, and this time we're going to add standards. Now to add standards, what we're going to do is we're going to pick the category that we just created. So this is basically like the course that we just created. So my course was Practice Setup. And then once I had chosen my course or my standard categories, I hit Next. And then it asks me what I want to create. So the first thing I would probably do is create all of my standards. So let's say that there's 4 standards. So what you would do is you would go into standards and you would start creating these standards within here. So I'm going to click on Standards, and I'm going to click Add Standards. Now in order to add standards, you need to call it something. So let's say I have standard 2.3, for example, or whatever the standard is, and then the description is whatever the standard, the verbiage is in the standard. So the student can ... So the student can do whatever. Now for each standard, you're going to choose a subject and a grade level. Now the subject can be any subject. So let me go down here and pick math, And it's kind of weird because there's a math, and then there's like a mathematics and a mathematical and logical thinking. You can pick whatever subject you want. And then you pick grade level. Now you either have individual grade levels, or especially for the upper level, you have some specific categories within grade levels. But let's say that I want to do 6th grade math. And let's see, no 6th grade math. So I will just hit grade 6 and choose that. Now once I've created this, I will save my standards, and then this screen will refresh and it'll be blank. So I did 2.3. Now I'm going to create a new standard, 2.5. The description, the student can also do something else. Now once you've chosen a subject and a grade level, those stay chosen. So you don't have to re-choose these every time. You just have to choose them the first time, and then you're good to go. So you notice math is already highlighted here. So you don't have to look at those every time. You just type in the identifier in the description after the first one. So I'm going to hit Save Standards here, and then I'm going to hit Finish. Now my standards are done, so I'm going to go to Benchmarks. I'm going to click on Benchmarks and choose that. Go to Add Standards. And here we see again an identifier and a description. So you can put whatever identifier and description you want. And then for the standards, you just name what the standard is. By the way, these other 2 standards are some standards that I did the other day. But in any case, so the standards that we just created were 2.3 and 2.35. So let's say that there's 4 benchmarks within 2.3. So then what I would do is I would choose standard 2.3, and I would go up here and I would type in my identifier 2.3.45. I'd write my description for my benchmark. I would save that benchmark, and then I would repeat this for every benchmark that is within each standard. So this is the basic process for creating standards. So we've created a class that had different standard categories, and then we went and we spent some time putting the names of the standards in there. So typing out each of the standards. If you have any further questions, you can contact myself, Ryan Munson, or Susan Herder, and we would be happy to assist you with anything that you need to do in Mastery Manager.